Hello and welcome. My name is Amol Dethe and my guest for the CFO Talks is EC Prasad, the CFO of Bajaj Electricals. It's a leading company in the electrical segment offering various products from consumer lighting and EPC. Prasad, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amol, and thank you for having me on your talk show. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So Prasad, let me start by asking a very soft question actually. Being a CFO, how do you start your day? Does it start with a juice made by the Bajaj juicer or a tea made by the Bajaj Electric kettle?
I rather prefer a tea early in the morning, so that's how my day begins with a cup of hot, tea or coffee. So that keeps me awake for the rest of the day.
And how many appliances of Bajaj Electricals do you have at home?
Well, I joined Bajaj recently in the sense about 3 years back. But when I look back, I see many of the appliances do belong to, Bajaj. So right from the kitchen appliances to the steam irons, the fans, a lot of stuffs. But it was not intentional, it was already there.
Right. So Prasad, you have come from a very interesting background. I think consumer durables, electricals, whether it's Voltas or Bajaj Electricals. You also worked with Emami. I think a number of years you have worked in this industry, man's head. I would like you to tell us in the beginning, how has the whole role of CFO has changed maybe over the decades and specifically in last 5 years? If you could highlight a couple of features or the top things that you have seen or which made you change completely as a CFO.
So as you rightly pointed out, the role of CFO has changed dramatically, when I put that way. All the things that we used to do, like bookkeeping, your compliances, risk management, has become a hygiene now. So everyone expects you to do that. But more than that, it's about creating value to your stakeholders, partnering the business, thinking ahead of times, looking at what is happening around you and able to quickly adapt to those, circumstances is what makes a CFO role now. So I think earlier avatars, probably, the CFOs would not be, burning their midnight oils thinking of the results and, how the market is and all of that stuff. But today's CFO is more aligned towards the business. So you do what the business wants you to do. But the core would always remain the compliance, the risk management. So within that framework, you tend to help the business do well and create value for all the stakeholders.
Sure. How do you empower yourself? How do you strengthen yourself? Because, the compliance, the risk, the market, and the company's agenda, the vision is changing day by day, right? I mean, vision will be a longer vision, but still there will be updates. There will be different layers, right? So how do you prepare yourself, Prasad?
So a few things, one is with this new generation ERPs, I think things have become much more easier now. The transparency, the visibility around, what's happening around in the organization is pretty high. So I think we don't need to worry too much on the basics. So that gives us a lot of time to do the thinking, validation. One thing which I do well is the empowerment of my team. So my teams are quite empowered to do a lot of stuff so that I don't need to get into the day-to-day routine. So I keep myself free for looking at external environment, looking at what my competition is doing, meeting my customers on a regular basis. Whenever I visit the branches, etc., I also ensure that I do meet the customers, because to me, accounting is the back end of any activity. If you do the front end right, your processes right, your accounting and the numbers that you declare automatically comes through. So a lot of my time, effort goes into looking at the future, looking at what my customer needs. When I say customer, it's both internal as well as the external customers.
And given the current situation, I'm sure CFO, you must be looking at different arenas, mitigating the risk, doing a scenario planning, and that source of information must be getting from your clients. I mean, typically we have just completed a full-fledged 7 to 8 months or not more than a year out of pandemic, and people are still not come out of the impact of pandemic. That is one side. still the interest rates are high. We do not know how and where we will go. Geopolitical tensions are high. So this is an economic situation. Given this situation, what is it that you learn from your clients, and what decisions are you making right now, Prasad?
So making what the client tells me is, to make their life easier, in a way that availability of easy finance, reducing on the working capital requirements that my channel has to carry. So all of that stuff. So if you look at ROC of a company, it's a product of the margin and the working capital or the capital turns that you do. While the margins might not be controllable fully because of today's environment, you can do a lot of stuff from the working capital side. So if you're able to increase the churn, not only at the company level, but at the retailers level, at the distributors level, then you add a lot of value. Right. So those are the things that we are working on, how to, reduce our working capital, increase the working capital terms, reducing on the working capitals. So all of that stuff. So we have come out with very, innovative solutions around, financing our vendors, customers. We're also looking towards, financing the retailers, the third leg of the distribution.
Right.
So that will help them, rotate the money faster. And that will give a big leverage to them in terms of selling the products faster.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the products. Where does your revenue, majority of the revenue, come from? If you could tell us, your lighting, electrifying, and the power distribution. There are a couple of businesses that you handle, or the Bajaj Electrical as a company handle. So where does your majority of the revenue come from, and how do you see the whole segmentation of consumer lighting, power distribution, power transmission at the company level?
So we have got three verticals. One is the consumer business, where we sell the domestic appliances and the kitchen appliances and fans predominantly. Then we have got a lighting solution, and the third is the EPC segment. EPC, as you are aware, that is in the process of getting demerged into a separate company very soon. If I understand you correctly, you want me to give a flavor of where each of these business are and what they are trying to do. So
exactly,
we are investing heavily on R&D and branding now. So you have seen Bajaj now coming up with the new Next brand, which we soft launched, say I think a month ago. The hard launch will happen during the festive season. So we want to become a brand, a company of brands rather than having just one brand. So today we are having 4 different brands. One is Bajaj, one is Next, one is Nirlab, and Morphy Richer. And each of these will stand for something on its own, a unique proposition that we offer to the customers. So Bajaj stands for the build for life, where we are saying that your products are going to last long. That's actually a mass level, entry level products, where we are saying that these products are going to last forever. So we have been giving warranties out for 5 years, 10 years on those products. Next is a recently launched brand which stands for performance, right? Where we are saying that this product will stand out in terms of performance when you compare it to your competition. Morphy Richard is an aspirational. We want to build it as an aspirational brand, and the fourth is Nirlab, and there again we are offering the value proposition of health. So a lot of R&D work has been going into all of these stuffs, and we are coming out with a lot more of products in all of these segments, which you will see in the next probably 2 to 3 quarters. So a lot of products are going to come out. As far as the lighting solution business is concerned, again, this has 2 different elements. One is the B2B and the B2C. B2B, we are almost number 1 player today. But I say almost, because in some quarters we are ahead of Signify, and other quarters Signify is ahead of us. So probably we are between one and number 2 as far as the B2B segment is concerned. B2C, we have got a long way to go. We are lagging at about number 5. But there again, we are investing a lot of money in our technology, and we are upgrading our offerings to the market. As far as EPC is concerned, EPC, we have been, last 3 years, we've been cleaning up our books, So we have not been focusing on revenues there. It was more about collecting the cash,
Hmm.
making that structure lean, inculcating the process which is needed for an EPC business, all of that stuff. So all of that is done. Now we are geared up. EPC is now standing on a very strong order book of about 1,700 crores as of March. We have, built the systems, processes, all aligned to an EPC industry. And once this company gets demerged, it will be able to stand on its own.
Right.
And in the field of transmission and distribution, there is ample number of opportunities, especially with, the focus on renewable power, etc. A lot of distribution and transmission activities are going to happen over the next 4-5 years in the country.
Right.
So that's where we are in terms of all our three segments.
Two things, Prasad. I copied what you said. So two things. One is just tell us which business or which segment adds most to your revenue, and give us more anecdotes about your commercial lighting business, because we understand that you have been, contributing to a lot of roads and infrastructure projects, and lighting up even roads. So tell us which is the longest route perhaps you have lit up ever.
So the business that contributes the most is our consumer business, where we sell our appliances and durables. We are the number one player in mixer, the water heaters and the iron segment. So that contributes the maximum revenue for us. Coming to the lighting space, yes, so a lot of traction in lighting space, because again, there is a lot of thrust from the government to convert all the conventional lights into LEDs. So those type of work we do on, changing the entire conventional lighting of highways into LEDs, etc. We have been also doing a lot of work on stadiums, and if you see the recently concluded the cricket match in Vadodara, that stadium was, lighted by us. Similarly, the hockey stadiums in Bhubaneswar, a couple of stadiums which was used for the World Cup were lighted by us. So the focus on B2B is very strong for us, and we are getting good orders in. So that's how it's.
But going ahead, I know I'm not going to talk specifically about numbers, but considering the growth, because I was reading, a couple of articles and, the projection about how the Bhubaneswar stadium or the stadium in Odisha was lit up by you. I think there will be huge demand, because, Odisha itself is coming with a stadium in every district, right? And such. So by any chance, because the volume of this kind of activities will be also high. So by any chance, do you see that this commercial business, or I don't know how to call it, or whether to call it a B2B business, will take over your typical consumer business in terms of the revenue going ahead, Prasad?
No, there is a fine synergy between the consumer business and the B2B business.
Right.
Because the products are more or less aligned. What we do extra in a B2B business is the pole, the mast that we supply, and bit of installation erection. But the luminaries and the technology around the luminaries remain the same.
Okay.
So that way, it won't make much of a difference for us.
Okay. Noted your points. So coming back to your CFO thing, how has been the journey in terms of a modern CFO that you see at? Because today, the world is talking about AI, automation. Does that worry you? How do you actually look at and calculate all these terminals and the activities happening in and around you?
So it doesn't worry me, actually. I look at it as an opportunity to do things. I have always been a transformational leader, looking at things to do to improve stuff, and getting work quickly in an innovative fashion.
Right.
In fact, in the last 3 years, we have been spending heavily on technology. Especially, we invested in the ERP. We are invested in the analytics. We are also invested in AI especially for our forecasting business models, etc. So I look at it as an opportunity that comes our way, and if we are able to be ahead of the industry in terms of predicting the future, I think that will be a great thing to have.
Specifically, when we look at the compliance, the risk methods, and also the taxation, a lot of reform happened from the government side as well, and they are also going, digital far more aggressively. So how do you actually, look at all the changes happening around you digitally? Because I think the whole compliance is also going
True.
digital, right? I mean, we are really surprised to see that it's, first of the month and you get the GST data, right? Immediately within 12 hours of the day is over, right? So that's how the speed of the government portals actually. So how, as a CFO, you think that catching up with the speed and, the whole evolution?
That's the most challenging part, if you ask me, Amol, because you have to be always up to date with the changing compliances, although we also have our own compliance tool for monitoring. You have to also have a mechanism in place to continuously amend what is there in the compliance tool so that the compliance tool gives you the result that you intend to have. So that is one, and although this government has done a lot of stuff to simplify things, they've got rid of many acts, rules, etc. But having said that, still there are a lot of complexities, and that is one thing which always keeps me on my toes, because I cannot be in a situation where we fail on compliance.
Right.
And that is one thing which even our board, the entire management is very, very, keen on that, to ensure that there's no compliance failures. And that is one thing which actually keeps me awake, because things can go wrong very quickly if not managed well.
Right. So if I, tweak my question slightly and try to take your opinion on the changing world, there are obviously changes, major developments happening day by day. What is it that, as a CFO, that you think should change now, which has not changed yet? Maybe from government side, maybe from policy side, maybe from industry side. If you could share a couple of, if not one, maybe a couple of thoughts you want to say, because the changes that you would like to see.
I think the most important thing is simplification. Like the government talked of, one-stop window for starting a business, right?
Yes.
And similar one-stop window should also apply for renewals. There has to be some mechanism where probably tax authorities or the government authorities come and look at your stuffs and say these are the compliance to be done. Get it done and close. I mean, all the compliance, one short window. Probably, I mean, I'm thinking ahead of times, but I think that is one thing which we are looking at, because we are not companies who are looking at finding loopholes in the act. We want to follow all the rules and compliances, but there might be missouts because of the the varieties of acts and laws and the complexities around it. Obviously, interpretation is another big issue. So I think there has to be a one-stop window the government can create for regulating and controlling all the compliances that are needed for an industry as a one-stop shop. So that would be of great help.
Sure, I think quite a meaningful thought, Prasad. And let me, take your perspective specifically on the current situation, which you partly answered in my second or third question. But we still feel that the geopolitical tensions will continue. We still feel that, I mean, not we as in the reports and a lot of consultancy firms, analysis and the prediction feels that the RBI will continue perhaps with the hike of repo rate, if not hike, the pause. Also, the tensions will go high. Inflation perhaps will go high. Considering this situation, looking at micro and macro both, how do you plan your strategy, Prasad? Because the interest rates are not going to come down very soon. The only positive factor is the global firms, maybe IMF, which are very positive about India. So two things. One, how do you look at your strategy now? And what does this whole positivity by the world, which is showering over India, means to you as a CFO?
So it worries me as well as, enthuses me, because, on one side, as you rightly said, yes, India is, the center of all the attractions today. So a lot of opportunities, especially around, urbanization, a lot of industries investing money in India. So all of that stuff is happening. But on the other hand, there is a lot of uncertainty around, the global markets itself, although we said that probably the interest rate is now stable and probably won't go up. But recently we had a Fed again, hiking the interest rates by about quarter basis point. And if, the global markets continue to hike interest, I mean, India would also have to follow suit. So that's my biggest worry. Otherwise, there'll be a chunk of outflows flowing out of the country. And I think the RBI at some point in time would need to intervene. So that is, the global problems still continue. So that's a cause of worry. on the other hand, India as a country has a lot of opportunities because the penetration levels in the country are still very low if you compare to any developed nations. So a lot of opportunities around urbanization happening. So a lot of scope for introducing new products, the premium products, etc. In the market, which you can make good margins, etc. So that's how I think about it.
Sure, I'm done, Prasad. Just last one quick question is about again the digital. The whole world is kind of a little threatened by a couple of digital activities. So people are thinking whether Chat GPT will take over your role, AI will take your role, robot will take over your role. Have you ever analyzed what will take over your role, or is there any way that digital can take over your role? How do you see yourself maybe after 5 to 10 years?
I mean, all these bots that you're talking of was created by humans. So I think bots can never take over a human intelligence. But what will get taken over is probably the mundane activities. So a lot of the jobs at the grassroots will get converted into robotics or AI. That again, probably for a country like India is not so good because with a population of 1.4 billion, there'll be a lot of job losses if that happens. So it's actually good as well as bad. So that's what I feel. But at a knowledge level, I think there is always a value to add, which I feel the bots or AI won't be able to take over.
Sure. Meaningful thoughts, Prasad. Thanks for your time and sharing your inputs here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amol.